We have whatever the hell was going on with Shedeur Sanders and the media reaction over the course
Can
of
we
the
call
weekend.
it Shedeur Gate? Nobody's called it Shedeur Gate yet, and I just feel like there is so much that we are going to uncover, right? I mean, look, I was one of the guys that said I'll stand on the table for Shedeur Sanders because nobody knows what it's like to grow up in a house like he did with a dad like he has had. And I remember feeling like the oddball, the odd man out in every social circle I was ever in. And for a very long time, I was introduced as Howie Long's son. And I'm sure that Shedeur Sanders got the same treatment and then some. My dad was great in one sport. Dion was great in two sports. He was the flashiest, best, smartest talking, smoothest, most marketable guy on the planet. I mean, and really pioneered this whole superstar thing, right? I mean, he was the first megastar. Shedeur is just the son of a megastar. And when I see him, I don't blame him or fault him for having the attitude or demeanor that he has. Look, the one way that you can be outstanding in our field is to be outstanding on the field. And unfortunately, the first time we saw him, he was pretty darn good out there. Some would say it wasn't great, but I would argue touchdowns are good. Staying in the pocket and delivering the throws on time in a rhythm is really good. And then last week happened, and he reverted back to a version of himself that he would admit wasn't good enough, and his teammates would admit wasn't good enough. But I would press back on people saying that there are offensive linemen involved in a conspiracy to defame or devalue a quarterback. Look, football is friggin' hard. Getting 11 guys on the same page is friggin' hard. Doing that with 11 guys that maybe didn't get snaps next to each other in training camp because there's 14 offensive linemen, 20 offensive linemen in camp. This rotation hasn't been in together. Look, it's a reps thing. It's a health thing. It's a random thing at times in the preseason. You're trying to get guys out there. I would push back on people saying that there is a conspiracy theory because, believe it or not, the NFL is bigger than Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders. And they don't even blink. The NFL moves on. There will be new superstars tomorrow. Born. There were superstars born today. In the state of Texas, there's probably a Hall of Famer born today. My point is this. Take the conspiracy stuff and walk with it. But if you want to look at film and you want to talk about the why with Shedeur Sanders, why there were struggles in the most recent preseason game, I don't have all the answers. I'm not a quarterback, but I can tell you this. There were guys open early in the down. And I'm not saying he's a pariah. What I'm saying is he's a quarterback who's not perfect yet. And like any other quarterback, he's got a lot of work to do. I said the same kind of stuff about Caleb Williams last year, threw for 3,500 yards with 2 offensive coordinators, 2 head coaches. So take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I think if you're going to stand up here and say there's a conspiracy, it's disrespectful to the other guys out there who are also trying to make the team, make a living, feed their family, all that good stuff, all that cliche stuff. So I'd call that a cop-out, and it's bullshit. I would just say football's hard, okay? Football's hard.
And realistically, like you said, asking 5 offensive linemen who are at the bottom of the roster to make themselves look bad intentionally to sink Shedeur Sanders, that doesn't make any sense. Like, imagine someone coming up to you and be like, hey, we need you to intentionally be bad at your job without a guarantee that you're going to make this team just so we make the other guy look bad.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to agree to that. I'll be like, okay, you can just let me go now. But I think with Shedeur Sanders, he has sort of become the biggest, not the biggest, but one of the bigger names when it comes to how flawed like the major discussion around quarterback play has become. It is either you are the second coming and you are perfect and have no flaws, or you are the worst quarterback alive and do not deserve to see any snaps. I think with Shedeur, it's tough because he had the oblique injury week 2 after the good showing he had in week 1, and that set him back. You could tell that he didn't get the reps because of the injury, and he was still kind of feeling that. So he reverted back to what worked sort of in college, and that doesn't work in the NFL. I think when it comes to Sanders, it is overall, it's just really tough because you can tell in how he talks to the media that he is not unaware of his faults. He has said, like, yeah, those sacks were on me. I have to be better. He is.
If you take the tone out of it, he's saying exactly what you're supposed to say.
Exactly. Like, he has approached this in a way that you would want a guy of his stature as a quarterback for an NFL franchise. You want him to do. But we have sort of turned the Sanders discussion into either he is the best quarterback or he is the worst quarterback, which we have also done for every other quarterback in the league. So at some point, guys, it's just okay to just be okay. It's okay for a quarterback to just be good.
The people that are calling it a conspiracy, that are still in this wildly, Shedeur Sanders camp of he's being mistreated, are still stuck in January mock drafts. Basically, they're still seeing him as the guy who was the number 2 overall pick back then, supposedly. And right or wrong, once you get to the NFL, you're treated where you're drafted as a rookie. If you're a 5th rounder, you're treated like a 5th rounder, unfortunately. And not only was he a 5th rounder, he was the 2nd quarterback they drafted in this draft. So, like, the NFL is going to give the player they drafted higher more opportunities. They're going to, they said it was no competition, but like, you are still a 5th round. Like, 5th round rookies just don't get the same opportunities that a 1st round rookie would, a vet that you signed to start for you would. Like, that's what I think the biggest thing is here is people have not come to grips with the fact that he fell to the 5th round, which means the NFL viewed him as 5th rounder, unfortunately. So the thing is, again, we've been hammering home. His career's not over. This was freaking 3 preseason games. Yeah. Like, we don't have to go nuts. He was always a guy that made most sense to develop on the bench somewhere and not step in and become a starter right away. That's exactly what he's going to be doing. So I think we've discussed it enough at this point. And I'm just looking forward to the point where we can just not actually talk about it and just see him next, training camp, see how far he's come then. And then we can discuss it again, because again, he was a 5th rounder. We don't have to go nuts over a guy who was a 5th rounder and looked worse than Dylan Gabriel over the course of the preseason. I think it's safe to say Dylan Gabriel looks closer to NFL starter. Doesn't obviously have maybe the physical skill set that Shedeur has to succeed in the long run. But if you're playing a guy right now in the NFL, I think a lot of people would lead Dylan Gabriel at this point.
Hey, I think it's important to point out and really confirm what you said about you're treated where you're drafted. Because I'll tell you what, if you're a guy who ends up as let's use Mitch Trubisky as an example.
Yep.
You're on the other end of the spectrum where people are now looking around into your zip code about where you were drafted and saying, well, Mahomes and Deshaun and all these other guys. So, like, that's unfair scrutiny for a guy like Trubisky, who ended up getting drafted where he did in Chicago. And then next thing you know, the book is written and closed on Mitch Trubisky because of where he was drafted. If he was a 3rd round pick, who knows? 2nd round pick, who knows? And then I think about a guy who played quarterback for Northern Illinois by the name of Jordan Lynch. And I've talked about Jordan Lynch on this show before. Jordan Lynch was a dominant college player, okay? Tim Tebow, arguably the best college football player to ever do it, okay? One of the most storied legacies. Not a great pro. Couldn't throw very well. Jordan Lynch showed up. I don't even know if he was drafted. He might have been a 7th round pick, something like that, 6th round pick. But when he showed up, he wasn't Jordan Lynch, who was at the Heisman, get together. Okay. He was Jordan Lynch, 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, trying to scrape to make a roster spot. I see this as the same type of situation. If Jordan Lynch's name was Shedeur Sanders, we would have heard a lot more about Jordan Lynch. Yeah. That's just the nature of the beast, dudes.